Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Was Betrayed by Uraraka and Fell in Love with Setsuna Tokage movie. Before we start, please go support Silverlion 12k for writing that awesome fanfic. Izuku discovered that his girlfriend Ochako Uraraka's purity was taken by none other than Katsuki Bakugou. Will he move on or stay focused on Ochako? Chapter 1. Second year had just ended as Class 2 were heading for summer break. This time they could choose whether to train or relax. Izuku was going to train at his father's hometown, which was in the countryside. His plan was to invite Ochako to the Midoriya family home, to possibly move their relationship to the next level. He walked to the dorms to pack just like many others were doing. When he finished, he went to knock on Ochako's door, but before he could knock he heard Moan's and Katsuki's voice. Round face, thanks for letting me take your first time. I bet Deku was too much of a hussy to do it with you. Izuku is usually a peaceful guy, but this was something he wouldn't let go. Izuku charged up 45% of One for All and smashed the door to bits as he saw Ochako penetrated by his bully. Izuku unleashed Black Whip around Katsuki's neck and shouted, "Get over here." The commotion caused all of Tua to rush to the scene. They all saw Ochako nude with blood on her sheets and a naked Katsuki. Everyone was disappointed in her as they turned to Izuku, who slammed Katsuki into the ground with tremendous force, only to hover over him and beat his face close to being unrecognizable. Iida had called the teachers. Aizawa, Mick, and All Might came at the end, only to see Izuku with bloody hands toss Katsuki a handkerchief telling him, "Clean yourself up, you bleeding." Aizawa. What the hell happened? Izuku? Asked the slut. All Might, Mick and Aizawa had turned to the busted door to see a sight that was like a flashback to each of them. They now realized what had transpired. They checked Bakugou's pulse, which was stable, but his face was beaten close to unrecognizable. Aizawa. Any last words you want to tell Uraraka? Izuku. I loved you. Now I see you're just a slut who's been playing me like a chump. I don't need you, it's you who needs me. Look at these. Izuku shows her 2 tickets to Disneyland he bought with his own money. When she told him that she had never gone, he saved all his money to buy the best tickets, which included a hotel room. At this very same moment again, Aizawa, Mick and All Might felt like they were watching the past as this event happened to all 3 of them. Ochako. Deku, I'm sorry. Izuku. Book off, Hitch-sensei's off for summer. Aizawa. We'll see you when you get back. Everyone was shocked knowing that they let Izuku go after they witnessed the major beating he handed Katsuki. This was a side of Deku that nobody has ever seen before, which truly scared them. Hopefully he will be better once he returns after summer. Chapter 2. Izuku had arrived to his father's hometown in the countryside. He knocked on the door, then he saw his grandparents. Grandma is named Megumi and Grandpa is Akira. Izuku. Hey Grandma and Grandpa. Grandma Megumi. Izumi, look how big you've gotten. Now where's that beautiful girlfriend you told us about? Izuku, we broke up. Grandpa Akira. Something happened. They noticed Izuku's fist shaking with rage. His grandpa decided the conversation should be taken indoors. Grandpa Akira. Inside you can vent to us as swear up a storm. Once inside, Grandma had made some tea and also had a batch of fresh cookies cooling off. Grandma Megumi. What happened, dear? Izuku. I caught the slut bucking Katsuki Bakugou. Grandpa Akira. I knew that boy was trash the moment your mother mentioned her friend Mitsuki having an awful temper. Izuku. It hurt so much, the girl I loved and gave my everything to. Grandpa Akira. Let me give you some advice, kiddo. Izuku. I'm all ears. Grandpa Akira. Forget about her, she was useless. A real woman is supposed to be a help and make your life easy, not harder. If she slept with that trash, that means she never loved you, so when the time comes both those idiots will suffer and you'll be living a better life with a real woman who loves you. Izuku. Thanks Grandpa, I appreciate the talk. Akira. I'm not done, boy. Izuku. What else is there? Akira. Did you know your grandmother Megumi wasn't the first woman I was involved with? Izuku. Really? Akira. Izuku, I was a player back in my youth. I had multiple women and wasn't ashamed. Izuku. What happened? Akira. I met your grandmother. Izuku. How did you meet her? Akira. She had caught my attention. Her beautiful black hair, her beautiful emerald eyes, she was enchanting. I went over to her to spit some game and next thing I know she rejected me. Izuku. How are you married if she rejected you? Akira. I attempted many things in order to attract her attention, but all of them failed. The last thing I tried was erase every form of contact I had with every other woman I was involved with. When your grandmother saw that, she decided to give me a chance because I changed my ways. After 3 years of being together as a couple, we got married. A year later your father was born. On the day your father was born I held him in my arms and that's when I knew that I had made the right decision in my life. Izuku. So you're saying the first woman I meet won't always be the one I'm destined with? Akira. Exactly, kiddo, now go get settled in. Izuku. Thanks Grandpa. Akira. Anytime, kiddo. Izuku went to the guest room and begun unpacking. Afterward he also deleted every trace of Ochako from his life. This included pictures, letters, text stats. When another text came and it was from her, it read, "Can we talk?" It was at that point he blocked her number and decided to move on without regrets. This was a new beginning for him. Chapter 3. The family of three began driving to the countryside. This family had shared one quality: they all possessed a form of reptile quirk. This was the family of Setsuna Tokage. She and her parents promised to visit her grandparents the summer of her second year. When they finally arrived, the family had a great lunch, and Setsuna was told about a summer festival that she could go to. Her grandparents told her about their neighbors, the Midoriyas had a grandson her age she could go with. Setsuna began to think about the family name Midoriya. Her first thought was of Izuku from UA, but she didn't want to get her hopes up. It was midday and people were preparing for the festival. Setsuna's grandmother had pulled out an old yukata that she wore when she was young and passed it down to her. Then she took Setsuna to the Midoriya home to try and set up a date between the two teens. Knock knock. Izuku was home alone since his grandparents had gone to prepare the stand that they would manage. Izuku. Tokage-sen, what are you doing here? Setsuna. My grandmother thought maybe we should go on a festival date. Oh, but you brought Ochako with you, huh? Izuku. We broke up after I caught her sleeping with Katsuki. Setsuna was shocked at hearing this. She was 100% sure Ochako was faithful. She also had a crush on Izuku, so this seemed like the perfect opportunity to get close to him. Setsuna. Then would you like to be my date to the festival? Izuku. That would be great. I'd really like to get to know you better. Setsuna had a pink blush which Izuku noticed as he placed his forehead against hers. He told her, "You're really warm, do you have a fever?" Setsuna. And no, just warm. Well, my grandma and I gotta go. Izuku. Okay, what time do you want me to pick you up? Grandma Tokage. Please pick her up at 8. The two Tokage women had gone back home and discussed what happened. Setsuna. Grandma, what am I gonna do? I don't have a yukata for the festival. Grandma Tokage. Don't worry dear, I'll give you my old yukata. It was the same one I wore when me and your grandfather met. As days progressed, Setsuna was still very nervous about this date. Things couldn't get worse. It wasn't until Setsuna's grandmother showed her a strip of condoms and said to her, "You'll probably need these." Chapter 4. Izuku wore a dark green yukata that was given to him by his grandfather. He then went next door to pick up his date. He saw her wear a lighter shade of green. They arrived at the festival and went to many of the stalls. There was a stall that sold dinosaur-shaped sweets with All Might's face on the bodies. There were also games and other activities to participate in. The two teens laughed as they enjoyed themselves, but what wasn't noticed was the fact they held hands the entire time. For Izuku it felt natural, as if Setsuna was the one for him. When Setsuna noticed it, she didn't pull her hand away to her. She felt like the missing piece was finally found. The date they shared was enjoyable. When Izuku dropped her off home, he planted a kiss on Setsuna's cheek, but that wasn't enough for her. She smashed her lips on his. As they broke the kiss, Setsuna saw a note on the door that read, "Went out to dinner with the Midoriyas." Setsuna felt very bold and she didn't want the night to end. Setsuna. Care to take this inside? She said after unlocking and opening the door. That was all that was needed to be said, as Izuku had picked her up bridal style, carried her inside, closing and locking the door behind him. Lemon skip, please read it on website. He whispers into her ear, "Let me see your face." One look, and he knew that she was loving every second he pounded her. Then he smashed his lips onto hers and finally blew a load, while Setsuna had a look of ecstasy. Chapter 5. He carefully removed the condom and disposed of it, but before he could clean the excess off his penis, Setsuna had shoved his hock in her mouth and cleaned it for him. The two laid in bed naked as Setsuna was on top of Izuku, cuddling into his chest. Setsuna. You know, that was amazing. Izuku. Glad you liked it. Setsuna. I know we did things out of order, but can I confess something? Izuku. Sure, what's up? Setsuna. I've been in love with you since the sports festival. The way you dominated first round. The way you strategized in round 2 and finally saving your friend Todoroki. I truly admired you, but what made me fall for you was the way you fought and were able to adapt during the fight between 1 and 1B. What I'm trying to say is that I'd like it if you'd give me a chance to be your girlfriend. Izuku stayed silent and contemplated for a few seconds. He planted another kiss on Setsuna's lips and gave her a response. Izuku. I'd love it if you'd be my girl. A few weeks later. Izuku and Setsuna had announced their relationship to their families the day after the festival, which they were all happy for the newly formed couple. As weeks passed, Izuku and Setsuna spent a lot of time together. She also joined him for training sessions, which helped her improve as well. Thanks to training, Setsuna's quirk had evolved, so she now knew how to spit acid. One night after a training session, the two teens had gone home after spending the day together, but Izuku was uncomfortable because all day he spent with joint pain. The next morning Izuku felt off as he tried to change out of his pajamas. They were too tight on him, they looked like they shrunk. He took notice that his arms looked thicker. His grandpa walked in to wake him for breakfast. Akira. Izuku, get ready for break. Izuku. Can you help me get out of these clothes? As Izuku heard his voice he heard more bass than usual, which confused him more. Akira. Izuku, you got a crazy growth spurt last night. Before bed you were 5'5", now you're 6'6". Your voice dropped too. After getting Izuku out of the tiny clothes, Akira had gone out and got him a few shirts, pants, boxers and a new pair of shoes. He also gave him cash to buy more clothes when he goes back home. When Setsuna laid eyes on the bulkier and taller Izuku, she fell in love all over again. What saddened her was that she and her parents had to go back to the city since they only planned on staying a short time. The two exchanged text messages and promised to see each other soon. Once Setsuna left, Izuku began to think about theories about how or what caused One for All to change his body, so to prove something he went to the highest mountain and launched a 100% smash. To his surprise, nothing was broken. So for the last remaining weeks Izuku trained using 100% full cowling. When his final week was up, he packed up everything, said goodbye to his grandma and grandpa. Chapter 6. After arriving home he told his parents what happened during his time away. He was so tired from his trip back home he forgot about his uniform for school. Back to school. It was time for students to return to school. Ochako was patiently waiting for Izuku so she could apologize again and hopefully get taken back, but there was no sign of him. Many of the students changed. Jiru grew her hair out, Iida was a bit more mellow, Kota had developed more social skills, and bakugou, his face didn't heal well after the ass whooping. All Might, present Mick and Izawa welcomed the class back, but someone was missing. All Might. Has anyone seen young Midoriya? After asking this they heard the classroom door open and they saw a young man standing at 6'6" with green hair tied into a ponytail. All Might. Excuse me sir, are you lost? Izuku. All Might, it's me Izuku Midoriya. The bass in his voice. All Might noticed the similarities and spat up blood in shock. Izawa and Mick were also surprised until Ochako called out to him and tried to hug him. He stuck his hand out and held her back. Ochako. Deku, you look good now, give me a hello hug. Izuku. We broke up, you cheated on me with the ugly shithead. Katsuki. I'll lick your ass, kick your ass. Katsuki said since his jaw wasn't the same ever since Izuku stomped him out. Izuku knew what he said but decided to humiliate him. Izuku. You're gonna lick my ass, get the buck out of here you freak, so keep your trap shut loser. Everyone laughed at Katsuki's humiliation. He charged at Izuku, but Izawa stopped him with his quirk. Izawa. First day as a third year, congratulations ass licker, you got detention. Also first day back, we're going to see who's improved, so everyone will individually fight the entrance exam robots from your first year. Class 3B and the new freshmen will also join us, now get your hero costumes. Izuku. Since my old one won't fit, can I wear my new one I made? All Might. Sure, head to the locker rooms now then. Izuku may have been the first one to get changed, but his suit gave him slight trouble because it was a bit tight. All Might. Has anyone seen Deku? Izuku. Sorry, it was a bit tighter than expected. Izuku. Oh yeah, I submitted a name change from this day forward. Deku is dead. I go by Titan now. Everyone crowded him, complimenting his new suit. All Might was surprised because it reminded him of the costume he used during his time in America. Class 3B arrived and saw 3 and a new Deku. The first one to break away from 3B was Setsuna as she yelled Zuzu. The rest of her classmates were shocked, then tried to process why she had called him Zuzu. When Setsuna jumped on him, Izuku caught her and carried her in a bridal carry. She moved his face mask and kissed his lips, causing everyone to be in shock. I missed you Zuzu, she said to him after they broke their kiss. I missed you too, beautiful. All Might. Ahem, young Midoriya, please show the class the fruits of your labors. Show the first years what the future #1 hero can do. Izuku. What do I have to do? Izawa. Kid, you gotta fight off a horde of robots. These will be shooting you with rubber bullets. You also have to save a civilian, which will be played by Midnight. I'm ready, Izuku said as the exercise began. One for all flowed throughout his body. Chapter 7. Izuku was going to run the course. He noticed that all the robots had a certain pattern they patrolled along. This led to Izuku calculating the best route and way to save the civilian. He jumped in when all robots had their backs turned as 10% of One for All flowed through his body. He began to smash robots until they locked onto him and shot rubber bullets. When bullets began to fly, Izuku switched to his shoot style and helped him evade all shots fired. All classes 3A, 3B plus all incoming freshmen were in awe of how well Izuku was doing. When Izuku reached Namuri, he used All Might's signature catchphrase for I am here. He had swept her off her feet and carried her back to where Izawa stood. Izuku leaped over to the other side with Midnight feeling his chest. Izawa. Well done Midoriya. Izuku. Kayama-sensei, please stop feeling my muscles. Midnight. Why? You're single, aren't you? Izuku. No, I have a girlfriend. Midnight. Well, you don't need a girl, what you need is a woman. Izuku. Aizawa-sensei, help. Aizawa. Sure, problem child. Aizawa had tied up Midnight and dragged her away in order to prevent a lawsuit of harassment against the school. All might. Ahem, alright students, you're going to run this course. One class period later. Many had done the best they could while reaching the civilian, but they still needed work. All might. Well everyone, you'll all need to go plus ultra because young Midoriya has now become the standard of what you all must strive to be. Now as for dorm assignments, third year dorms are different from last year this time around. The third year dorms is now an apartment complex. You'll have your own apartment and no curfew, since we expect all of you to attend classes like a responsible young men and women we know you've become. Every student headed to the changing room and then headed off to their new dorm apartment. Once everyone was settling in, many locked themselves in their individual apartments and began unpacking decorating. After a few hours it came time again for another room judging competition which Mina was in charge of. Many of the students hadn't changed much, but toned down their decorating. They all walked to Izuku's apartment, which was at the end of the hall. They knocked and Izuku opened up. Izuku. Oh hey guys, what's up? Mina. It's another room judging competition. Izuku. Okay, come on in. When they walked in they saw no trace of All Might merchandise anywhere, but his room was like a bachelor's pad. As he gave them the grand tour, many were shocked he had changed the most and matured. When they got to his bedroom, Ochako tried to flop on his bed, but Izuku stopped her by leaking some killer intent. There was a knock at the door that caught everyone's attention once they made their way to the living room. As Izuku opened the door he was greeted by his dinosaur queen Setsuna. Izuku. Hey babe, what's up? Setsuna. Hey honey, I came with a little housewarming gift for you. It was a picture of them during the night of the summer festival. Izuku planted a kiss on his girlfriend's lips to say thank you for the precious gift. Ochako. Stop kissing my man. Setsuna. Listen Hitch, you lost the right to call him your man when you slept with Tic Tac Hick. Haminari. Damn burn. Izuku. I think it's best you all leave now. Everyone understood why that was the best choice to make. With all members of 3 gone, Izuku led Setsuna to the couch and began to make out. This continued and was about to get hot. Just then there was a knock at the door. When the lovebirds heard that, they broke the kiss off and looked into each other's eyes and said, damn it. Izuku got up and opened the door to see Aizawa-sensei, who had a small backpack with him. Aizawa. I've brought someone who wanted to see you for a while now. From behind Aizawa was Eri, who was now 8 years old, as she looked excited to see Izuku again. Eri. Aizu. Izuku had picked her up and began to hug her, seeing as he wasn't able to visit her during the summer. How are you, Snowball? Before Eri could answer Izuku's question she saw Toage and blurted out. Is she my new mommy? Chapter 8. Eri. Is she my new mommy? Izuku couldn't respond as this question shocked him because he didn't know if Aizawa had told her what happened to them. Before he answered Eri, Izuku heard footsteps and Setsuna took Eri from his arms. Setsuna. Oh, aren't you a cutie? Well, to answer you, yes, I'm going to be your new mommy. Izuku pulled Aizawa to the side so they could discuss the small scene that they just saw. Izuku. Sensei, what did you tell Eri? Aizawa. I told her that Ochako had hurt you by cheating. If she asks what cheating, try to explain it as simple as possible. Izuku. So is that why she asked if Setsuna was going to her new mom? Where were you two going? Aizawa. Yeah, that's right. I was going to ask Tagada if he could watch her for the night. I got a mission and won't be back until next morning. Izuku. We can watch her, it's no problem, we'll have to go shopping for dinner. Aizawa. Thanks, problem child. Please make sure she takes a bath before bed. Izuku. Alright sir. Should I bring her to class tomorrow? Aizawa. Yes please, here are her things. I'll see you tomorrow. Eri, you'll stay with Izuku tonight. Eri. Yay. As Aizawa left, Izuku closed the door and turned around to see the most adorable sight as he saw Setsuna playing with Eri. He noticed that Eri had taken more of a liking to her faster than she did to Ochako. Izuku went over and hugged his 2 girls. As the 2 began to cuddle into his chest, Setsuna took the opportunity to snap a picture of the 3 of them. Izuku. So Snowball, what do you want to do? Eri. Can we watch Disney movies? Izuku. Sure. Setsuna, care to join us? Setsuna. Of course, why wouldn't I be with my little family? Eri. Yay, mommy is staying. Izuku. Before we watch our movies we have to buy food to make dinner, okay? The faster we buy everything then we can watch Disney movies. The trio left the apartment and walked to the grocery store to buy ingredients. Izuku and Setsuna were swinging. Eri, who walked between the two many people, pointed out how the family of 3 looked happy. While inside the store they picked out all necessary ingredients and were about to pay when Eri spotted some sweets. She wanted to ask Izuku if she could get one, but didn't want to bother. It wasn't until she saw Setsuna grab 2 of the sweets and would pay for them separately. Setsuna whispered to Eri, "I wanted something sweet too, let's eat these after me and Papa cook dinner, okay?" "Okay, thank you mommy, I love you." Setsuna felt the love behind her new daughter's words and responded back, "I love you too my little snow angel." When the trio walked back to the dorm apartment complex it was time to make dinner. "Izuku. I'll make dinner." "Setsuna, can you keep Eri company until I'm done please?" "Setsuna. Sure love." "So Eri, what do you want to do while we wait for dinner?" "Eri. We can color in my coloring book." "Setsuna. Yay, let's do that then." Eri went to her bag and grabbed a giant coloring book which had many pictures to color and a 24-pack of crayons. The 2 girls colored for what seemed like hours when Eri asked mommy, "Are you going to leave me too?" It was at this point Setsuna realized that Izuku wasn't the only person affected by Ochako's stupidity. Without hesitation Setsuna responded, "Snow Angel, I love you, and your papa. I would be a fool if I left." Setsuna stopped coloring as she saw Eri, who was close to crying, and hugged her, letting her know that she won't abandon her. "Izuku. Dinner's ready." As the trio ate a nice dinner of rice and curry which wasn't too spicy for Eri's sake, they then began to watch a few Disney movies. Halfway through Setsuna had brought out the sweets she bought and gave Eri hers, "Thanks mommy." After watching the movie Setsuna gave Eri her bath and when finished she blow-dried her hair making her fall asleep. Izuku carried her to his bed so she could sleep well. The 2 kissed her goodnight. Eri hung onto Setsuna's sleeve and said, "Don't go mommy." Back in the living room it was dead quiet. "Izuku. Sorry for dragging you into being a mommy. I know you probably don't want to do this." "Setsuna. I would be lying if I said this wasn't a part of my dream." "Izuku. What do you mean?" "Setsuna. On top of being a hero I also want to have a family of my own. Maybe if I can't make it as a hero or sidekick I'd like to be a housewife." "Izuku. Well, whatever you choose I'll support you. Anyway, do you want to spend the night?" "Setsuna. Sure, let me grab my clothes and I'll be right back." Before she left Izuku whispered in her ear, "Hurry back so we can shower together." This made Setsuna run to her dorm and back in a few minutes. The 2 lovers then showered together and made love in the bathtub. Setsuna did her best not to moan loudly so she could avoid waking Eri. In Ochako's apartment. "Katsuki. Take it deeper, round face." Ochako and Bakugou were having hex when Ochako came to realization that Katsuki Bakugou had a tic-tac hic. She wasn't feeling any pleasure and was now regretting her actions. Chapter 9. The next morning Setsuna woke up to the sight of her lover Izuku on the opposite side of the bed. In between them was Eri. For Setsuna this was like a dream come true. She then felt Eri snuggle close and talk in her sleep as she said, "Don't go mommy." Setsuna felt as if this is the life she wanted, a nice peaceful setting. She then whispers into Eri's ear, "Mommy will never leave you." This made Eri smile. Setsuna closed her eyes for a minute until she felt something poke her cheek. Setsuna opened her eyes and saw Eri's cute red eyes meet hers. "Eri. Wake up mommy. Daddy said breakfast was ready." Setsuna looked at her phone and saw it was 8:30 a.m. She began to freak out and started getting dressed quickly. Upon arriving to the living room she asked Izuku, "We're late for class." "Izuku. Babe, Principal Nezu sent a message to cancel all classes because they had to upgrade all security systems." "Eri. Haha, mommy is funny." Setsuna calmed down and gave Eri a kiss on her little horn and gave Izuku a kiss on the lips. As breakfast was almost done a knock was heard at the door. When Izuku looked through the peephole to see who it was he saw Aizawa Shota. Izuku opened the door immediately. "Izuku. Aizawa-sensei, is there something wrong?" "Aizawa. I'm sure you saw classes were cancelled, but I'm here for Eri." "Izuku. We're about to have breakfast. Please join us." "Eri. Uncle Shota, are you here for breakfast?" "Aizawa. I am." "Then we have to get going." "Eri. Going where?" "Aizawa. Home." "Eri. Can't I stay with mama and papa?" Before Aizawa and Izuku could say anything Setsuna already had her mind set on what she wanted for her future. "Setsuna. Is there any way Izuku and I can adopt Eri?" "Aizawa. Well, she still doesn't have a permanent home, so if you want to adopt her you're free to do so. Plus her quirk control has gotten better than ever." "Izuku. So can you get us the adoption papers?" "Aizawa. Of course Eri, after breakfast we're going home to pack because you're going to live with your new mama and papa." "Eri. Yay, wait, what about you, Uncle Shota?" "Aizawa. I'll always be around when you need me." "Eri. Thank you for everything, Uncle Shota." "Aizawa. Alright, I'll have Cementus make another room for you. And how do you plan to care for Eri, as you both have hero courses?" "Setsuna. I'll gladly transfer to the general education course so I can be with Eri." Like I told Izuku, if I couldn't make it as a hero or sidekick, being a housewife would be just fine for me. Aizawa. Alright, then we'll begin the transfer paperwork and we'll let you know. After breakfast ended, Aizawa took Yuri home to pack her belongings. Yuri asked when she would come back until Aizawa let her know that it would be 2 days before she could be home with Mama and Papa. When Izuku's door shut, Setsuna jumped and embraced Izuku as she said, "We're gonna be a family," but then she realized that she had decided all of this on her own, without getting Izuku's say on the matter. Setsuna. I'm sorry I jumped the gun, you decided this so fast. Izuku. It's okay, but are you sure this is what you want? Setsuna. Yes, I'm 100% sure I want to be with you and Yuri. Izuku whispered in her ear. Let's continue where we left off. Izuku gently caressed Setsuna's every curve of her body. When he got to her ass, he lightly spanked it, then gave a firm squeeze which caused her to moan. Izuku then lifted her up, pinning her to the wall. As he dry humped her, she wrapped her legs around his waist. At this point, Setsuna's flower was drenched as her body remembers the first night they laid together. Izuku laid her on the couch, but then she got up and sat him down, as after doing so she gave him a striptease, slowly removing clothes and dancing very sexy. Once she was completely naked, Setsuna unzipped Izuku's pants that held his monster back. Seeing he was stiff, Setsuna began to give him a blowjob, starting to lick the tip. She then slowly began to bob her head, pleasing him. She noticed that he was ready to blow a load. Instead of swallowing his load, she finished with a titubik, having his cum on her chest. Even after this, Izuku was still stiff, so she grabbed the condoms from her jeans, used one. After her man was ready, she straddled him and made his hock enter her wet flower. She then bounced up and down on his rod, while Izuku began to thrust harder, hitting her sweet spot as she moaned. In order to silence her, Izuku gave her a deep kiss. Setsuna was full of pleasure as she came, but Izuku still hadn't blown his second load, so he bent Setsuna over the couch and pounded her doggy style until the two climaxed together. When the two lovers were done, they went to the bathroom and showered together. Little did they know the sunlight that passed through the curtains, making their shadows reveal what they were doing. One person saw this. It was none other than Ochako Uraraka. It was at this point she knew she bucked up by betraying Izuku. Chapter 10. After Ochako saw two shadows perform the acts of lovemaking, she ran to her room and cried her eyes out, knowing that any chance of getting Izuku back was gone, but she wanted to try. When 20 minutes passed by, Ochako decided to head to Izuku's again to try and talk it out. In front of Izuku's door she knocked and heard someone complain. A few seconds later, Izuku opened the door to see someone just to ruin his mood. Izuku. What do you want? Ochako. Can I come inside? I want to talk. Izuku. No. From the back she heard Setsuna ask and approached the door. Babe, who is Io? Setsuna's mood was ruined thanks to seeing Ochako. Ochako. Can I come in so we can talk? Setsuna. Only if you're going to explain why you ruined two lives. The three were at the kitchen table sitting. Ochako was silent and didn't know how to start. While we're waiting, Izuku was becoming impatient. His anger at seeing her was going to cause him to flip the table. Ochako. I'm sorry. Izuku. And is that it? What kind of half-assed apology is that? You slept with the bastard who ruined my childhood. Setsuna. You also ruined Yuri's life. I bet she won't trust you now. Ochako. Yuri loves me. Setsuna. She was here yesterday and when she saw me she asked, is that my new mommy? Ochako had looked to Izuku for confirmation, only to see him nod his head, which caused her to be in denial. Not wanting to accept the truth. Ochako. I want my daughter and boyfriend back. Setsuna. Like I told you before, the night you slept with Microhick was when you ruined your life. Both Izuku and Setsuna stood up to show her the door when Setsuna taunted Ochako by grabbing Izuku's hock on the outside of his jeans, while his manhood was visible, and said, "This is mine, this is where my babies will come from." This made Ochako upset. Before a big shouting match between the two women could continue, there was a knock at the door. Izuku went to see who was there after getting Setsuna's hand off his junk. When Izuku finally opened the door, it was none other than Aizawa, Nezu, Samantha and Iri. Izuku. Senseis, to what do I owe the pleasure of your arrival? Iri. Mama Papa, I'm home. Ochako bent over to pick up Iri, but she had done a cut like a football player to avoid Ochako like the plague. Setsuna. Snow Angel, welcome home. Aizawa. I spoke to Samantha to see when he could created the extra room and he said he was free. Second Miss Toage, we found a better accommodation for you so you wouldn't sacrifice your recommended status. Nezu. I've decided to open a primary and middle school within the campus. So any student who is accepted can be allowed to have their younger siblings enrolled with them as well. Ms. Iri will be attending 3rd grade along with Mandala's nephew here at UA. I'll ensure the two are in the same class. Izuku. Isn't that great? You and Kota get to be in the same class. Iri. Me and Ko-chan. Setsuna. Yup, and you'll be learning here at UA, so when class ends you can come home with us. Eri? Yay. Cementus got to work while they talked about this new arrangement. He came to join them after 15 minutes, letting them know the room was ready. Izawa. Great, before I give you all of Eri's stuff to unpack, I brought the adoption forms. Ochako stood dumbfounded as the teachers ignored her existence while she witnessed Setsuna and Izuku become the legal guardians of Eri. Setsuna asked Izawa to snap a picture of the three while she held the officially stamped adoption form. After doing so, she sent the picture to her family as it was captioned, "Just became a mommy to this no angel." As her family saw this picture, her phone was blown up with messages by her family. Setsuna put her phone on silent and listened to the conversation between Eri and Izawa. Izawa. Eri Midoriya, welcome to your new family. Eri. I have Papa's last name. Izawa. Yes you do. Eri. What about Uncle Shota? Izawa. He'll always be around when you need me. Eri ran to Izawa and gave him the biggest hug she could with her strength and said, "Thank you for everything." Eri's belongings were left at his door, and once the teachers and principal left, Izuku and Setsuna turned to Eri and said, "Welcome home." Ochako. Eri, come to mommy. Izuku. Setsuna. You're still here? Eri. You're not mommy. This is mommy, Eri said as she went to embrace Setsuna, and that was like the nail in the coffin. Ochako left, but not before she vowed to get Izuku and Eri back in her life. Eri looked at Izuku and said, "She's crazy, right daddy?" Izuku. She sure is, Snowball, she sure is. While Izuku and Eri played together, Setsuna checked her phone and saw the same message from her parents and grandparents: "Let us meet our grandchild, great-grandchild, so we can spoil her." Chapter 11. Time had gone by quickly, but it was very troublesome for Izuku since Ochako began to wear super skimpy clothes. Though that plan of hers backfired because the only ones who were attracted to her were the perv duo Kaminari, Mineta and Tic Tac Hick. It was officially the last of school before winter break. It was a cold Monday morning. Everyone was only doing intensive hero training. Before 3 began their regular day, 4 people were missing: Izuku, Setsuna, who was promoted to 1A, Tsuyu and Izawa. Snipe would gladly cover for Izawa. When the 4 missing people finally arrived, they were wearing formal clothing. The reason for this was because the elementary branch of UA held their culmination ceremony today. Flashback. Eri. Mommy, Daddy, can I ask you something? Izuku. Sure Snowball, what is it? Setsuna. Are you okay? Eri. I am. I wanted to know that if you could come to my culmination ceremony. Setsuna. Of course sweetheart, we wouldn't miss it for the world. We need to talk to Izawa-sensei to get permission to attend the event. Eri. Uncle Shota. Can he come too? Izuku. We will try to see if he can make it. They made their way to Izawa's room, who was located on the ground floor, as the trio knocked. Izawa. What's wrong, problem child? Izuku. Well, Eri wanted to ask you something. Eri. Uncle Shota, could you please give mommy and daddy permission to attend my culmination ceremony? Izawa. Sure, let me write a note to make sure I don't forget. Now I have papers to grade. Before Izawa could close his door, something stopped it, and he looked to see what snagged the door. It was Eri. Izawa. Was there something else? Eri. Yes, would it be possible for you to come to Uncle Shota? Izawa. Of course, let me write a note so that I get someone to cover for me. After a few minutes, Tsuyu Asui showed up and asked permission to attend her younger sister's culmination ceremony as well. Flashback ends. As Izuku, Setsuna, Eri and Tsuyu had sat down in their seats, Izawa had dismissed Snipe as he took his place on the podium. Eri sat on Setsuna's lap as she had a medal, a few papers and a small trophy with her. Izawa. Sorry for being tardy class, we had to attend the UA elementary culmination ceremony. Izawa was going to dismiss their class early so they could get winter break started until he saw Ochako's hand go up. Izawa. Yes, Uraraka. Ochako. Why were you at the elementary culmination ceremony? Izawa. Eri asked me to attend. If you're wondering why she has those papers, they are the awards she received for outstanding academic improvement, perfect attendance and outstanding citizen. A round of applause was given to Eri for doing well in her studies. When the applause died down, Ochako looked at Eri and asked. Ochako. Eri, why didn't you tell mommy? I would have loved to see you get your rewards. Setsuna was ready to slug Ochako across the face as she called herself mommy. Eri. I did tell mommy and she and daddy came. Before anything else, Katsuki's fuse had gone off as he began to shout and howl like a chimpanzee. Katsuki. Oi, round face, why do you bother with that yourself? Izuku activated Black Whip and dragged Katsuki over to him as he shouted, "Get over here." He was then slammed into the ground again. The rest looked at Izawa hoping he would intervene, but he stood by the desk watching it play out. Izuku hovered over Katsuki as he released some killer intent with one hand on his throat. Izuku. If anyone is useless it's you. 3 years and you still haven't gotten your provisional license. You have one final chance in spring before we graduate, but why bother? I know you're going to fail. Ochako, you chose a failure over me. Good luck in life, you'll need it. After this, Izawa made his announcement for dismissal. Many left as they went with family to celebrate Christmas. Izuku and Setsuna packed their bags during the weekend. Upon getting home they picked up their bags and were ready to leave. Eri. Mommy, where are we going? Setsuna. Well sweetie, we're going to take you to meet your grandmas and grandpas. Eri. Who are my grandmas and grandpas? Izuku. Well Eri, my mom and dad are your grandma and grandpa. Setsuna. My mom and dad are also your grandma and grandpa. Izuku. You'll also get to meet your great-grandparents. Eri. What makes them great? Izuku. It's because they are our grandma and grandpas. Eri. We have a big family. Izuku. Yes we do. Now let's get going. Mommy's side of the family are waiting to meet you and you're going to be a surprise to my family. Eri. How are going to see grandma and grandpa? Izuku. We're going to drive there. Eri. When did you get the car? Setsuna. Remember the weekend you went to play with Kota? Eri. Yes. Setsuna. Well, me and Papa went car shopping. Thanks to getting help from my grandma and grandpa we were able to get it. Now let's hop in so we can see them. All bags were loaded. Izuku got behind the wheel. He made sure Eri was buckled and Setsuna was riding shotgun. Now the family of 3 made their way to see the family. Chapter 12. The drive to the countryside was a bit longer than expected, but the little family of 3 were enjoying their time together like always. During the drive Setsuna and Izuku got hungry. Eri fell asleep, but when she woke up she was hungry. Eri. Daddy, I'm hungry. Izuku. Hello, hungry, Dad. Both Eri and Setsuna looked at Izuku with unamused stares since he said a lame dad joke. Setsuna. Sorry Snow Angel, Papa is being a big dummy, but we're going to stop real soon to fill our bellies. Do you want to watch a cartoon? Eri. Okay mommy. How am I going to watch a cartoon? Setsuna brought out a tablet that had an app to watch cartoons. Eri then enjoyed her brief time to watch cartoons until the car came to a stop. She then looked around and saw they were at a gas station. Izuku. Eri, come with me, we can get a meal here. Since we're close to grandma and grandpa's there aren't many big restaurants, so let's get something from here, okay? Eri. Okay. The 3 got off and went inside to the gas station convenience store. Setsuna carried Eri to the part of the store where they had the meals as they picked out 3 meals and some small candies for dessert. Izuku paid to fill up the gas tank. Setsuna paid for the food. The 3 got in the car and ate when they finished. Eri was curious to know how long till they arrived. Eri. Daddy, how much longer until we're at grandma and grandpa's? Izuku. It should be another 40 minutes. Meanwhile back at UA. Ochako and Bakugou were the only ones in the dorm complex. Ochako began to think about where everything in her life began to go wrong as she denied the reason her sleeping with Katsuki was the issue. It was then she accepted her mistake. Now she desperately wished time would rewind and her nightmare would end. There was a knock at her door. When she opened it, there standing at the door were her parents. Ochako. Mom, Daddy, what are you doing here? Mr. Uraraka. Well, it's Christmas break and we thought we'd pick you and that boyfriend of yours up. This is Uraraka. I excited, I can't wait to meet our future son-in-law. Ochako didn't know how to explain the fact that she bucked her own life up by cheating on him. At this very moment shit was about to hit the fan. Katsuki stormed into her room shouting. Katsuki. Alright, round face, we're bucking the entire break, so get ready. Ochako's parents were in the room with disgusted looks at the young man. Katsuki. Who's the old fart? This is Uraraka. I thought you said Izuku was a respectful young man. Katsuki. Deku am 50 times better than he is. He was too much of a coward to buck Pink Cheeks, so I bucked her. They broke up. Just then Ochako's dad touched Katsuki's shoulder, applying 7 tons to his body. He then fell through 5 floors. Coincidentally, Izawa's room was below where Ochako's room was built. When the dust settled, Katsuki heard a woman scream. As he looked up, he saw Izawa and a woman with seafoam green hair in the reverse cowgirl position. Izawa stopped banging Emi Fukukado ms. Joke. He then got dressed and kneeled to Katsuki, who shut his eyes as he grabbed him by the back of the shirt and said to him. Izawa. Give me a reason why I shouldn't expel you right now. Then a shout of apology was heard. Sorry, I'll fix the floors. As Izawa looked up the 5 floors Katsuki went through, he saw Uraraka's parents. Make sure that it's done quickly, sir, shouted Izawa so that the message could be heard. He then tossed Katsuki out of his room. He wanted to continue the fun time with Emi, but when he got there she was dressed and not in the mood anymore. Upstairs with the Uraraka family, they lectured Ochako about her stupid decision of cheating and that she now had to permanently live with her mistakes. They then started to fix the flooring which was damaged. Afterwards they left. Back to the Midoriyas. The little family finished their food and continued to Grandma and Grandpa's house. After 20 minutes Eri fell asleep. Setsuna looked and saw Eri in the rearview mirror sleeping. She wanted to squeal at the adorableness. Izuku had bought a Rockstar energy drink to keep him up while driving. After the long trip they arrived, Izuku saw his mom and dad's car. After parking the car, Setsuna was waking Eri. "Setsuna. Eri, baby, wake up." Eri then woke up and asked, "What happened, mommy? Are we at grandma and grandpa's?" Setsuna nodded yes. Eri unbuckled her seatbelt and got out of the car. Izuku knelt down to Eri to tell her something important. "Izuku. Eri, honey, I have to let you know mommy's family knows you're our daughter, but my family doesn't, so stand behind me, and when I say grandma and grandpa, you come out okay?" "Eri. Okay, daddy." The family of 3 went to the Midoriya family home and knocked. His parents answered the door. "Inko. Oh, Izu, you're here." "Hisashi. Hey champ, how are you?" "Izuku. I'm fine. Listen, I know I call you mom and dad, but what would you say to being called grandma and grandpa?" At that moment Eri stepped in front and greeted Izuku's parents. "Hello, my name is Eri Midoriya." There was a silence followed by a high-pitched squeal which attracted everyone inside. Inko shouted. "We have a grandbaby." Eri was picked up and snuggled by Inko as she and all her other grandparents gave the little girl all the love she wanted. Izuku and Setsuna saw this and were happy. Eri was smiling wide after getting more love and attention. Chapter 13. When Izuku and his little family of 3 arrived, Eri was a big hit in the family as she was cuddled by all of her grandparents. They were practically stuffing her with cookies and sweets. When asked if she wanted more, she shook her head, saying no. After having her fill of sweets, she said, "Eri. Mommy said if I eat too many sweets they'll rot my teeth and I won't grow properly. Thank you for the sweets." The adults were surprised. Any other child would have said yes to more sweets, but she knew when she ate enough. Through the rest of the night they played games, told Eri family stories and sat down for a delicious dinner. Eri really enjoyed sitting on Nana Inko's lap and she in return loved to cuddle her granddaughter. As everyone was heading to bed, Inko noticed Eri was falling asleep. Izuku was gonna take her to bed when she asked, "Can I sleep with Nana and Grandpa tonight?" Inko looked at Izuku with begging look and he agreed. Izuku. "Okay Eri, you can sleep with Nana and Grandpa tonight." Eri. "Yay." Inko. "Come Eri, let's take a bath." Izuku. "Blow dry Eri's hair, it makes her fall asleep faster, okay?" Inko. "Okay, good night you two." Now that Setsuna's family went to their home next door, Izuku and Setsuna locked up and went to the room they would share. Once inside they laid in bed as the moonlight illuminated the room. Setsuna loved to listen to Izuku's heartbeat. Setsuna. Izu. Izuku. Yeah, what's up? Setsuna. Make love to me, Izu. Lemon skipped, please read it on website. The 2 lovers quietly made their way to the bathroom and bathed together. Once they were out they got back to bed and cuddled until falling asleep. Chapter 14. It was 11 o'clock am, and both lovers Izuku and Setsuna slept in late due to their long night of lovemaking, but Izuku felt something poke his cheek causing him to vacuum. As he opened his eye he saw Eri. Eri. Wake up daddy. Izuku. Sweetie, what's wrong? Eri. Nothing, but grandma told me to wake you and mommy for breakfast. Setsuna began to wake up as she saw Eri. "Oh, did our snow angel come to sleep with us?" Eri. "Good morning mommy, grandma says wake up for breakfast." The 2 wake up and join everyone for breakfast, making light conversation. Nothing eventful happens, but after breakfast Izuku's grandfather and grandmother wanted to talk in private. Izuku. "What's up grandma, grandpa?" Akira. "Izuku, we're extremely happy you got a wonderful woman with you and a precious daughter. Megumi. I've always dreamed of seeing our first great-grandchild and you blessed us with one. I don't care what anyone says, Eri is a full-blooded Midoriya." Izuku. "Thanks, I appreciate the kind and words." Akira. "Now for the most important part, we want you to have these." Izuku couldn't believe it because the rings he was just handed were the same rings his grandparents wore. Izuku. "Wait, aren't these your rings? I can't take them." Akira. "Izuku, we're old, you've brought us plenty of joy through the years. We'd like for these rings to be passed on." Megumi. "Now it's your turn, we would like for you to carry on this tradition please." Without them knowing, Eri was looking for Izuku. When she found them she surprised them a bit. Eri. "Daddy, oh, you're with great-grandpa and great-grandma. I'm sorry, did I bother you?" Izuku. "No Snowball, what's up?" Eri. "I wanted to know what we would do today." "What's in your hand daddy?" Izuku. "Well, I wanted to ask you, how much do you love mommy?" Eri. "I love mommy tons, why?" Izuku. "Well, I wanted your opinion because I would like her to become a Midoriya too." Eri. "How will she become a Midoriya?" Izuku. "Well, I'm gonna ask her to marry me." He showed the rings to her and her eyes sparkled. She was excited to know mommy would become a Midoriya like her. Eri. "When did you buy the rings?" Izuku. "Your great-grandpa and great-grandma gave them to me, these are the ones they wore." Akira. "Well Eri, you see, we gave the rings to your daddy because we might not have much time and we want them to be passed down." Eri. Not much time, I don't get it. Megumi. You see Eri, me and great-grandpa are old, we don't know if we'll wake up tomorrow. Eri began to cry, realizing that they might die any day. She ran and embraced both of them. She activated her quirk and a blinding light engulfed Izuku's grandparents. When it died down, Izuku saw a young man and woman who looked to be in their late 20s early 30s. Izuku. Grandpa, Grandma, is that you? They were both surprised to see each other as they did when they first met. Akira, what happened to us? Eri. I'm sorry, great-grandpa, I didn't want to lose you or great-grandma, so I used my quirk. I'm sorry. Megumi. Oh princess, it's thanks to you we'll be around a lot longer now. Let's do this for your great-grandpa and great-grandma on your mommy's side of the family. When Eri finished using her quirk, Setsuna noticed her grandmother looked like an older version of herself and her grandfather looked the same, but younger. She couldn't tell who he reminded her of. Afterwards, Eri was exhausted from using her quirk and went to sleep. The family decided to laze around for the day. Time skip Christmas Day. It was Christmas Day, everyone was enjoying themselves. Eri was showered with tons of presents which consisted of new clothes, toy, school supplies. She was grateful for what she received. The time came and everything was going quiet. Izuku spoke to Setsuna. Izuku. Setsuna. Setsuna. Yeah babe. Izuku. I love you more than anything else in the world. You and Eri mean everything to me. I wasn't sure how my life would have been if you hadn't come into my life. For that I'm eternally grateful, but in front of our family I have to know, will you marry me? As Izuku got down on one knee and showed her the ring, it was the one Izuku's grandmother wore. She turned to her only to receive a nod. Setsuna. Yes, yes, a million times yes. She jumped and latched herself onto Izuku, planting a passionate kiss on his lips. When she let go and broke the kiss, Izuku put the ring on her, which fit perfectly. Setsuna. Eri, look, I'm going to be a Midoriya like you. Eri. Yay, our family is complete. Eri said as she ran and embraced her mom, and they were both snuggled by Izuku. Many photos were taken, and new family moments were made when Eri was put to bed. The adults, including Izuku and Setsuna, partook in shots of sake to celebrate the engagement. The night ended without any incident. Chapter 15, The End Future. When holiday break finally ended, Setsuna announced her engagement to Izuku. Many were happy. The school year then progressed like scheduled except for a war between villains and heroes. Thanks to Titan, many villains learned that the symbol of hope had arrived. After the war, UA graduation had come and many had graduated except Bakugou, since, like Izuku predicted, failed his provisional license exam, which was a requirement to meet for graduation before becoming an actual hero. Izuku was given the honor of valedictorian. He gave the speech that shook many to the core. This was a boost for many who truly wanted change. Speech. Hello to all of you in attendance and thank you for attending the graduation ceremony. I'd like to thank every teacher and faculty member who assisted in our growth one way or another, many who inspired our lives to change. I'd like to especially thank All Might, who stood as the symbol of peace for so long. We thank you. Now it's your time to rest and it's our turn. My goal in life isn't to make tons of money and be famous, but to become the symbol of hope, but to become a voice for the small Quirkless communities who have been forgotten. I will become the voice for the forgotten. Speech end. Many in the audience clapped and rejoiced as the birth of a new symbol had arrived. As the ceremony proceeded, Izuku and his entire family left as Setsuna held Eri in her arms. 10 years later. Both Izuku and Setsuna were now 28. Eri had turned 18. As the whole Midoriya family saw the day she graduated, she then became a full-fledged hero, along with her boyfriend Kota Izumi. The duo had begun to work for a top-notch agency and were known to be the next powerhouse team. Just like Titan and Lizardi, the two had a day off and decided to visit Izuku and Setsuna since they took paternity and maternity respectively. Setsuna was carrying twins. She and Izuku were staying at the countryside where they fell in love when a knock at the door came. It was none other than Eri and Kota in their hero gear. I, to be honest, would have gone with Nightingale, Eri, and water hero Torin Kota. Izuku answered the door and saw his daughter. He then hugged her and carried her like she was still the little 8-year-old she once was. Eri. Dad, stop, I'm not a little girl anymore. Izuku. But you'll always be my snowball. Kota was just smirking and snickering, trying not to laugh since the scene was just too funny to him. Izuku. So what brings you two here? Eri. We had a few days off and I wanted to see you and Mom. Kota also wanted to talk to you and Mom. The trio walked to the living room as Setsuna was seated on the sofa with her 7-month swollen belly. Setsuna. Snow Angel, it's nice to see you again. Eri. Mommy, how are you and my baby siblings doing? Setsuna. We're doing well, the babies are very energetic these days. Eri. That's good to hear. Kota wants to talk to you and Daddy. Setsuna. Well, Izumi-kun, we're waiting. Kota. I would like your permission to marry your daughter Eri. He exclaimed in a loud voice, then bowed his head. Then Eri chimed in to put her 2 cents. Eri. We already have our rings. Izuku had the look, it was the same look he gave villains to put the fear of God in them. He walked up to Kota, who looked ready to run in fear. Second later was hugged and heard, "Welcome to the family, please take care of her." Both Izuku and Setsuna were in tears because the little girl they raised was engaged. "Izumi. I promise on my life I'll take good care of her." On the day of Izumi and Iri's wedding, in attendance was all former members of Wana, including Uncle Shota and his wife Imi. The only two people who weren't invited were Katsuki and Ochako. As for Katsuki and Ochako, they have a rebellious child who wouldn't take any form of instruction or rebuke. Ochako did her best to work as a pro, while Katsuki became a drunk who couldn't accomplish anything. When Ochako tried to send money to her family, it was denied since they were doing well due to the fact Titan, the #1 hero, funded them. She was glad to know Izuku funded them, but was confused why he did it until she was sent an anonymous letter. It read, "Just because I funded your family doesn't mean I forgive you. I did what you failed to do. Have fun living with the failure." Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.